The following program is made possible in part by the Nancy Eccles and Homer Hayward Family Foundation, the Digital Media Foundation, Yellow Brick Road, and the Arts Council for Monterey County. A big thank you from McCate TV.
Hi, I'm your host, Dylan Holmes, and you're watching On the Mission Trail.
You're watching On the Mission Trail, a student-produced news magazine on McCate TV. And now, On the Mission Trail with your host, Dylan Holmes.
Today, our reporter Coral is headed to Santa Cruz to learn how Food Not Bombs is helping the homeless, talk to a fashion designer about upscaling, and then to Sand City to check out the West End Fashion Show. Now, to Coral to find out what Food Not Bombs is all about.
Hey guys, it's Coral and I'm in downtown Santa Cruz and we're with Keith, the co-founder of Food Not Bombs, to learn a little bit about his organization. So Keith, first tell me, when was this organization founded?
So we started in 1980 when we heard that Ronald Reagan was running for president and could possibly win. And our concern was that he would divert a lot of the social services, money from social services towards the military, and that there would become like an increasing number of people living on the streets. And it grew out of a couple of projects. One, I was a produce worker while I was studying art. In the morning, I would do produce to make a living. And I threw away all this produce. I felt horrible about it, so I started taking it to housing projects. And across the street from the projects was a brand new building, and the people at the projects were saying, oh, that's where they design nuclear weapons. And it turned out it was Draper Lab, and they were designing the guidance system for missiles. I thought, wow, there should be money for food and not for bombs. So that gave me the idea for the name. And then a friend of mine got arrested on May 24th, 1980 at an anti-nuclear protest. And we started doing bake sales to raise money for his legal defense. And I happened to come across a poster that said, wouldn't it be a beautiful day if the schools had all the money they needed and the Air Force had to hold a bake sale to buy a bomber? So we bought some military uniforms at an Army Navy surplus store and took the sign out to our big sales and told people we're trying to buy a bomber, and just to get people to stop and talk to us. And then we talked about nuclear war and the nuclear power. And then the final thing that really became Food Not Bombs is we thought, well, the Bank of Boston's investing in the nuclear industry, and their policies are such that it could lead to a future where there'll be people living on the streets, because they were really, hand in hand with the Reagan administration. And so we thought, we'll dress up like hobos, we'll do a soup kitchen outside the stockholders meeting at South Station, and then we'll invite some homeless people to come and eat with us. And so it became such a huge number of people there, and the people living on the streets were like, well, there's no foods for the homeless, so it'd be great if you did it every day. So we just quit our jobs and did nothing but Food Not Bombs.
So I see that you're not only feeding the homeless, you're also promoting peace,
yes,
which is incredible. So what do you think is something that we can do to promote more peace in the world at the moment?
Well, a number of things. One of them is to organize your own Food Not Bombs, and there are Food Not Bombs in over 1,000 cities of the world and in 65 countries. And then part of what our idea is, we developed like conversations at the meals where people think of other ideas. So we, at one point, we came up with an idea of doing pirate radio and having little neighborhood radio stations that we put out. Then we had like a thing called Indie Media that came out of hanging out, doing meals on the streets, and just trying to create like an atmosphere where there's a sense of abundance. So Food Not Bombs always has so much food that no one is feeling like, wanting or anything. And we could really do that throughout society, because a lot of conflict and war is for a fear that you're not going to have a place to live, enough to eat, money to go get an education and those kind of things. So if we can change the mindset that there is enough and that people can live securely and safely, then that would get rid of a lot of the ability of governments to mobilize people to fight wars or things that are just not actually really happening,
So once people have the basic necessities, that we're able to come together and brainstorm ideas to then promote more peace. So what have been some difficulties that you've also run into?
Well, in San Francisco in 1988, I wrote the city government to get a permit to serve food at Golden Gate Park every Monday because there was no food in the Haight-Ashbury on Mondays. And instead of even talking to us, they sent out 45 riot police and arrested 9 of us for serving food without a permit, even though we had requested a permit. And ultimately, in San Francisco, they made a total of 1,000 arrests, and I ended up spending 500 days in jail total. And I was the first white person to face the California 3 strikes law. So there was that. So while that was really tough going through all that, at the same time, it inspired people to start new groups. So every time there'd be a wave of arrest, other people would respond by starting more Food Not Bombs. So the biggest thing now, I think, for most Food Not Bombs chapters is, even though there are 70 cities in America where they have laws banning or restricting the serving of food, people are able to resist that, and it actually usually brings in more volunteers. So it's just kind of the logistics of collecting the food and picking it up and taking it to places. There is one thing coming up which is a danger, though, and this is the first time that this has happened. So the 30th anniversary of the first arrest of Food Not Bombs is on August 15th this year. And there's an attempt to make a new law called AB 2178. And it's a law that will create difficulties for people like Food Not Bombs to serve food, because there'll be this whole application situation. You have to pay a fee. The government will determine whether you're qualified to serve the food. And I think that the person that introduced the law is well-meaning, hoping that the meals will be safe and everything. But what she does not realize is actually governments will use it to keep us from feeding people. And she's just a new politician that has not grown cynical yet and politically savvy to know that what AB 2178 will do. So there's food programs all across California that are organizing to resist that. And so that is the kind of thing that we come up against, are people creating laws and systems that are really ultimately designed to make it more difficult to actually do this. And part of the issue is that governments don't want to see a large number of people out on the streets getting food and eating, because they're fearful there'll be political pressure to divert tax dollars to things like that rather than to spend it on the things that the people that finance their campaigns want. So, for instance, the military is very much against us in the military contractors, because if we're successful, there'll be money for everything that people need, and by necessity, they will have to take some of the money that gets lost in the military and put it towards those things. And so that's why there's that kind of pressure. But also real estate interests go after us. There's a new building, luxury apartments coming across the street. I don't know if the tenants union in there or the realtor or something will get the idea, oh, wow, no one wants to buy a $1 million studio apartment if you've got homeless people eating every Saturday and Sunday across the street. But the reality is a lot of the people working and building the building are paycheck away from the streets. And, it's a consequence of very bad economic and political policies that the United States has lived under for the last nearly 40 years.
Well, I'm inspired to see that you're continuing to work towards justice for everyone in the community, no matter their wealth and everything. So that's incredible.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and we also, we work on a host of other issues, so we actually provide a lot of undocumented people food who couldn't get food otherwise. We have a whole system for that. We not only provide many homeless people food, but also people with apartments who, by the end of the month, can't, afford to buy food. So at the end of the month, we'll have 200 to 220 people eating with Food Not Bombs here at this address, and it's very similar across the whole United States. And then we have, we provided. We had a kitchen at the Dakota Access Pipeline protest in North Dakota. We helped organize the meals at Occupy throughout that whole time. We've taken food to many of the anti-war protests. that kind of thing. We've gone out to Nevada test site and fed the protesters, calling on an end to nuclear testing. So we work on all kinds of levels of trying to support both logistically and through publicity different causes like that.
Well, everyone deserves to eat, so that's wonderful. So tell me a little more about the logistics. When exactly does this take place?
Yeah, so we do it. We meet at India Joe's restaurant here in Santa Cruz every Saturday and Sunday at 12:30. And so we make the food up until about 3:30. And then we load the vehicle and we drive down to the downtown post office and we serve the food from 4 to 6. And during the week, there's a team of people that goes to the different grocery stores and bakeries and so on and picks up food that can't be sold. And then we have like a walk-in refrigerator that we store the food in, and then also a dry goods area. And then we take that food every Saturday, half of the food that we've collected on Saturday morning, and bring it to India Joe's and prepare it. And then we bring the other half on Sunday and prepare it for the Sunday meal. And then we, at the end of serving, we start to clean up all the pots and pans and everything. And then we take it back to India Joe's and sterilize everything at the to prepare for the next meal. And so it's all volunteer. There's no paid staff, and it's all the food is almost all free. So the things that we're like raising money for right now is actually we're trying to get portable toilets put up downtown, and so we have a campaign to raise money for that. And we're trying to get the city to. We actually did rent one, but the city took it from us, so we're trying to restart that again. And then also, just for the gas for the vehicle and to register the vehicle. And they can go to foodnotbombs.net and make a donation. So you can make like a monthly donation. Many people are doing like $5 or $10 a month to help, particularly with the portable toilets that we want to put down here. So.
Well, incredible. Thank you so much for having us here today and for inspiring us all. It's been an honor. So thank you. Yeah.
Have you heard of upscaling? It's a new trend where you take something old and make it new. Similar to recycling. Let's learn some more with Coral.
Hey, it's Coral, and we're here at Circus Wagon Inventions with Arielle, and we're going to learn a little bit about how she can repurpose clothing and turn it into something beautiful and new. So first off, tell me a little bit about what drew you to the realm of fashion.
Ever since I was little, I would always play dress up. It was my favorite game. And growing up, my mom made pottery by pressing lace into clay. And so when she stopped her pottery business, she gave me all of the lace that she was working with. And I started turning it into clothes.
So Arielle, tell me a little bit about what drew you to the realm of fashion.
When I was little, dress up was always my favorite game. I loved to play with all the fabric, and then my mother was making pottery and had a pottery business supporting my brother and I. And seeing how the clay was always so breakable, it kind of instilled my romance in the malleable quality of the fabric. And then when my mom stopped her pottery business when I was in my late teens, early 20s, she gave me a big box of lace, and I started cutting all the lace up and using it to make dresses and sell them.
So what do you think of the fashion industry today?
The fashion industry today is so toxic on so many levels, unfortunately. Mass production is extreme and horrible for the environment and people and the planet. And growing up, I never wanted to be a part of how twisted it was, but I really loved to play with fabric and take apart my Barbie dresses and make them fit my stuffed animals and do different weird reconstructions. And so I always loved fabric, but I'd never want to be a part of the industry because it's so toxic. And so in the way that I'm recycling fabric, it makes me feel a little bit better to be at least taking all the pieces that are discarded and making them something new.
So that's so beautiful. So you are creating something out of something that someone else might have thrown away or something like that, correct?
Yeah, I get a lot of my fabrics are donations from people's closets, and they're cleaning out Or sometimes when people pass away, family members give me their loved ones' wardrobes, and I'll remake it into something that's worn and loved again.
So this wonderful bus, this is your studio, correct? So tell me, what is its name and how did it get its name?
The bus is named Rosie. She's named for all of the roses that ever were. I'm named for my Nana Rose, and I have lots of friends that are Rose, and and she came from a rose farm. So I got the bus because I spent months and months asking every single person I met, am I meeting you because you're going to give me a bus? Where do I get a bus? How do I find one? And I find that when you're looking for money to get something, you will get the money to get the thing. If you're looking for something and not just the money to get it, then you'll end up reaching the thing that you need.
Tell me a little bit about the brand name Circus Wagon Inventions.
Okay, so Circus Wagon Inventions comes from when I was 20 years old and I had bought a one-way ticket to Ireland, and I was traveling through Europe by myself for over a year. I ended up in a junkyard in Germany where these artists live in train cars, and I lived there for definitely a handful of months, and we put on a circus. And when I came home, and I got a cat, Margot, and so I wanted to travel with my cat, and I couldn't just travel with my backpack. I knew that I needed a bus, and so I spent months and months asking every single person I met, trying to find the bus, and then I was given it. I found it for free, and I gutted the whole thing and rebuilt the inside with hardwood floors, like you can see, and wooden cabinets, and lived on the road, traveling, selling my dresses out of the bus for close to 4 or 5 years. And I've been parked recently. It's very helpful to be grounded. My dress circus, life circus.
So tell me a few of the different places that you've showcased your fashion.
I have done many fashion shows, almost too many to count. I definitely have done the Santa Cruz Fashion Art Festival, and then the Big Sur fashion show, and the Seaside West End fashion show. And then my friend who goes by the Bone Witch on the internet, the two of us did many years of touring doing fashion shows. They make horn headwear and different ethically sourced animal parts, and then I do all recycled fashion, and so we would combine it and do like a touring fashion show.
Do you have any plans for the future with your fashion?
Upcoming, I have a show with the West End Celebration in Seaside, and that is in just a few days. I'm very excited. It's going to be a chakra set, because the chakra colors are something that is often overlooked, and getting in tune with all the multitudes of layers of ourself is important.
So tell me a little bit about the dress that you're wearing right now, just to learn a little bit about your fashion.
This dress was made all with recycled fabrics and hand-dyed with walnut. The doily on the front is a really great representation of the work that my mom was doing. She was pressing the lace into clay and making bowls out of it, and then when she stopped doing her pottery business, she gave me a bunch of lace, and I used it to repurpose it in different ways like this as accents for dresses to let it live again. And then the walnut dye is all natural, and the walnuts have their own tannins, so they stain the fabric. Even the synthetic bits, like over here with the elastic lace, where it's such a dark hue, it's just from walnut.
Do you have any advice that you would give to anyone who wants to pursue the arts or fashion or something of that matter?
Follow your heart and use what's around you, because if you open your eyes, I'm sure that there's more than enough tools just around you somehow.
Do you have any advice that you would give to anyone wanting to pursue art or fashion or something of that matter?
Follow your heart and open your eyes. There's so many things that can be used that are all around us that are waiting, and people call it trash, but it's not. I've made whole dresses out of feathers and branches and leaves. There's so much that you can use, and you should do it.
So how was it living on the road with your bus and your fashion?
It's a difficult, beautiful struggle. There's so many artists who are considered homeless, and homeless people who are considered not people, and it's hard to exist in a place where you're not allowed to exist unless you own property and you are paying to be there. And so being a traveling artist was always it was so much weight. It was such a struggle to be accepted and to be heard, and not just be assumed to be something that I wasn't. And being parked is just easier. You don't have the weight of fighting the world quite as much. It's just having a safe place to be it's difficult and necessary.
So, do you find that your travels all around the world have inspired your clothing in any way?
I would say absolutely. I think that how can you not be changed when you experience new things? And I think that traveling all around the world and seeing what's really important, and like the connections between people and the real things that are important, and you find that stuff is fleeting and it disappears, and it's not what builds a person.
So thank you so much, Arielle Rose, for having us in your beautiful Circus Wagon Inventions bus and being able to learn so much about how you create new things out of something that someone would have thrown away. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Arielle invited Coral to the West End Fashion Show in Sand City to see some of her pieces on the runway. Check it out.
Hey, it's Coral, and we're in Sand City, and we're going to see a little bit about how the community can bond over fashion and art. Welcome to the West End Fashion Show. Are you an aspiring model?
Well, there's a lot of people I aspire to be. I'm not, I'm actually really excited to be in this show. So, yeah.
So how has it been rehearsing for the shows? How many practices have you been to?
I actually joined the show a little later than most people, so I've only gone to about 10 practices, but we rehearsed at the director's house, and we get in our costumes, and we actually painted them, and it's been fun. It's been a little hard since school just started, but it's been fun.
So tell me a little bit about your costume.
Well, my costume, I'm supposed to be like the ugly and the pretty and then the bad and the good. So my costume's like black, and then it's got some turquoise and blue in it and some purple. And it's a skirt with layers, and then the top is a crop top.
So tell me a little bit about how you got involved with the West End Festival.
Well, there's a photographer by the name of Logan Norton, and he's a good family friend, and he actually knows the person who did all this stuff. And so, yeah, he just set me up with that.
Wow, so how has it been performing with all of these models and everything?
It's so much fun. They all have really good hearts. They're really good people. We all have a bunch of fun, and we practice while having fun at the same time. It's not strict.
So how do you feel about the show and all?
It went really good. I think we all did really well. We all had so much fun. We were all shouting in the back, though. It was amazing. Yeah, it was a great time.
Awesome. So really good energy and everything. Awesome.
Definitely great energy. If you could honestly do it in 2 years, come do it.
Now we're back with Arielle Rose to see how the show went. So tell me some of the parts that you thought went well today in the show.
Oh, I thought it was a beautiful show. All of the dancers really felt their chakras and had a beautiful time representing it. I didn't say last time that you can find my clothes in store at Go Ask Alice in Pacific Avenue in Santa Cruz, and Wallflower Boutique in Santa Cruz, and Lume Yoga Studios. Awesome. And then also Nepenthe in Big Sur. Yeah.
Wow. So,
And then on the internet. And then on the internet too, if you follow me on Instagram, it's CircusWagon42, CircusWaggon42.
perfect. So, Andrew, tell me a little bit about how you think the show went today.
Oh man, the show went amazingly. Yeah, I had the opportunity to model for 2 different designers, and both were incredible. And Dominique is brilliant. She's the one who put this production together, and the whole production was really fun and really amazing. As you can see, this is one right here. This is designed by Sofania, and she's an artist. So she actually, this is a painting. So all of her designs are paintings, and then she creates them or prints them onto shirts and dresses, and so we get to model these. And so this one's really bright and lively and fun. The other one I got to model was from Domini, and hers was more sultry and a little darker and more powerful, and that one's really fun too, to drop into that sort of character. And the contrast was really fun too, to model for the 2 different designers.
So, tell me why you think that art is important in this community.
Oh, I mean, look what it's doing. It brings people together. It makes people come alive. It gives, artists the ability to be seen and to show their art. I think it's extremely important. I mean, and then the messages that are brought through the art is really important.
Now I'm wearing Arielle Rose's, one of her pieces, and she hand dyed this lace with redwood cones, so that's really fun. All of her stuff is repurposed, recycled, so she gives new life to everything that she touches and turns it into beautiful things like this.
So, how did you get involved in this artistic kind of scene?
I just found out through some mutual friends and on Facebook. So yeah, it looked really fun, and I decided to try it.
So how did you like it? How did you feel tonight on?
Fun. Yeah, it was great. I felt amazing out there.
So tell me about the outfits that you wore tonight.
So the outfits were inspired by the 7 chakras, and each one represented one of the different chakras, and also was represented by the color associated with that.
So how did the show feel tonight?
It was amazing. It was very empowering. Each of the designers brought something different to the show with their theme and their inspiration, and it was just so wonderful to be part of something so creative in our community.
So why do you think that art and fashion and expression is so important in this community?
Because it's a smaller community and we don't have a lot of external influences, so it's really important for us to create that here at home.
Thanks, Coral. Looks like a lot of fun. Well, that's all we have for today. Keep an eye out for future episodes. Thanks for watching.
The preceding program was made possible in part by the Nancy Eccles and Homer Hayward Family Foundation, the Digital Media Foundation, Yellow Brick Road, and the Arts Council for Monterey County. A big thank you from McCate TV.